Over the years, people have been realizing that movies, TV shows, and games have mirrored real-world events before they've happened. This is sometimes called predictive programming. It's the idea that the elites, or the people that are really in charge, or whatever you want to call them, allow or purposely kickstart certain media that will warm the public up to a scheme that they're trying to pull on us. Some pieces of media that are talked about in this context are the movie The Manchurian Candidate, the TV show The Lone Gunmen, and the TV show The X-Files. The Manchurian Candidate film from 1962 shows a plot to kill a presidential nominee so that his running mate can take his place and institute emergency powers. The plot involves two U.S. soldiers, Raymond Shaw and Bennett Marco, who were captured during the Korean War and brainwashed by the Soviets and the Chinese. Eleanor Iselin, the mother of Raymond Shaw, is power-hungry and has latched on to a vice presidential candidate, John Iselin. She's somehow got in contact with communists, probably through her political connections, and requested she be sent an assassin. That assassin turns out to be her son. Shaw was programmed to be an assassin, and his mother plans to use him to kill the presidential candidate her husband is running with, so together they can take advantage of presidential power. The assassination would allow her, through her husband, to enact totalitarian laws and gain even more power over the United States. While the Manchurian Candidate is best known for its connections with MKUltra and prominent assassinations of the 1960s like both Kennedy brothers, I think it ties in with 9/11 as well, with the antagonist's use of a false flag to drum up support from the American public. In the Manchurian Candidate, Miss Iselin has a parasitic quality to her, using her husband and her own son for her political gains. She's willing to kill whoever is in her way so she can essentially create an American authoritarian state. Her husband also uses the communist hysteria to cause fear in the population that communists are everywhere and are going to harm them. This could help rile up public support for whatever war they wanted to wage, whether it be in Vietnam, Russia, or China. It's kind of funny to note that the communists in the film were trying to infiltrate the US because, they were brainwashing soldiers and sending them back home. But I guess the point of the film is to show that the enemy can come from your own leadership. And scientists behind the Iron Curtain were no strangers to their own brainwashing experiments in real life. It wasn't just the United States. In the real-world event of September 11, 2001, parasitic entities within the US government and intelligence, along with some other choice countries, were willing to kill Americans to pave the way for authoritarian measures like the Patriot Act, which allowed them to further oppress the United States population. They used the fear of Middle Easterners to cause panic in the population, which allowed them to invade whichever country they wanted to and kill untold numbers of innocent people. Alright, so on to the MKUltra aspect of the film. The communists brainwashed Shaw and conditioned him to be triggered into his programmed state by playing cards, specifically the Queen of Diamonds. When someone wants him to become controllable, they simply suggest he play solitaire. He starts to fall into a trance, then sees the Queen of Diamonds, and now he'll do whatever you tell him. It's a two-step process. First off, I don't really think Lee Harvey Oswald was programmed to kill JFK. In fact, there's evidence that he didn't even pull the trigger that day. If Oswald was programmed to kill JFK, then that could explain why he was so calm right after the shooting happened, if he's one of the men who shot at the president that day. But the evidence doesn't really line up with that theory. There was, however, a guy named Luis Manuel Castillo, who said he was part of the JFK assassination. Under truth serum and hypnosis, Castillo said he was, quote, taken to a building in Dallas, Texas, the day Kennedy was shot, handed a rifle assembled from components hidden in a bowling bag, and instructed to fire at a man in an open car sitting next to a lady. The signal to fire would be given by mirror flashes, unquote. Castillo was Cuban, and this does line up with the sightings of Hispanic Cuban-looking men engaging in various mysterious activities at the time of JFK being shot, though it does conflict with the theories of the signal to shoot being given by hand and umbrella. While I do believe that John F. Kennedy's assassination has similar aspects to the Manchurian Candidate story, I think the film's subject matter most closely resembles the assassination of his brother, Robert Kennedy. In her book, A Lie Too Big to Fail, The Real History of the Assassination of Robert F. Kennedy, researcher Lisa Pease presents her evidence of mind control being involved in the plot to kill RFK. On June 5, 1968, presidential hopeful Robert F. Kennedy was giving a speech to his supporters at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. Upon exiting the ballroom through the kitchen, he was allegedly shot by Palestinian Christian Sirhan Sirhan. There was a lady in a polka dot dress, possibly his handler, that he had been following around that night. He said that she was, quote, busty like Natalie Wood, unquote. Rad. If I was an MK Ultra assassin programmed to kill a presidential nominee, I would want a big-titted handler as well. That's non-negotiable. They'd be like, alright, go shoot that guy in the head. And even under hypnosis, I'd be like, nah, I need a sultry angel with a sizable bosom to give me orders, or I'm not doing it. Pease talks about how Sirhan said he was kind of in this waking dream sleep, very sleepy, and the woman in the polka dot dress pinched him to knock him out of his horny days. Hot. He then believed he was at a shooting range. He began shooting at a target, 1 or 2 shots. Then he sort of woke up and was being restrained by several men. One question. Was Sirhan erect while shooting Kennedy? He seemed very seduced. Now, she did pinch him, which supposedly helps get rid of an unwanted erection. Okay, back on track. Not one bullet that hit any of the victims has been tied to Sirhan's gun. So was he just a patsy that was programmed to shoot a couple rounds and make it look like he was the perpetrator? There was another man named Luis Manuel Castillo. Oh wait, we know him. He looked like Sirhan Sirhan, so much so that a mysterious telegram from the Philippines was sent to FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover. The name of the sender is redacted. It states, quote, photos of Sirhan Sirhan and Castillo almost identical, stop. Castillo deported from Philippines 1967 for falsification of passport, stop. While in the Philippines, he claimed to be part of John Kennedy assassination plot, stop. Please inform present residence and location, unquote. Due to a series of events which I want to cover in another video, Castillo was captured by Philippine intelligence and was interrogated and eventually put under hypnosis. When words like sand and flowers were said, it elicted a response from him that pointed to a type of brainwashing or programming. When certain words were put together, he would act out different scenarios. One phrase caused Castillo to put an imaginary gun to his head and pull the trigger. This seems like a failsafe in case the assassin needs to be eliminated. Simply make sure they have a loaded weapon on them, give them the code word, and that's that. No loose ends.
Good. That's one less loose end.
Another trigger was the picture of Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos, who it's suspected he was sent to kill at one point, possibly during this trip to the Philippines. It caused him to follow the picture around and shoot at it with an imaginary gun. Similar to how Pease describes Sirhan going into, quote, range mode when the girl in the polka dot dress pinched him. Pease believes that Castillo could have been a backup patsy / assassin to make sure Kennedy didn't leave the hotel with his life. So the Manchurian Candidate book came out in 1959, the film came out in 1962. JFK was killed in 1963, RFK was killed in 1968. Quite a series of events. The author of the book, Richard Condon, did extensive research into mind control techniques for the book. Maybe someone somewhere who had power and money read the book and thought, we gotta make this into a movie to delegitimize it. That does seem like a tactic that could be used if one wanted to make a conspiracy theory look bogus. Just make it into a movie, and then when someone tries to bring up the movie in regards to said conspiracy theory, people will say, well, that's just a movie, it's not real. I guess that's not really predictive programming, but it is a programming of sorts. The Lone Gunmen was a spin-off of The X-Files that aired its pilot episode on March 4th, 2001. Now, that episode, strangely enough, was about a rogue group within the government hacking an airliner's guidance system and crashing it into the World Trade Center. Gosh, I hope that doesn't happen. I mean, I guess I shouldn't worry too much, though. It's just science. Oh my goodness! The episode also talks about a computer chip that spies on you. I mean, obviously that's science. Oh my Jesus Christ! So in the episode, 3 guys who publish conspiracy media, weirdos, hack into a government server and find out about a war games scenario where an airliner is hijacked and brought down in New York City. There are actual war games scenarios about airline hijackings in the United States, some taking place on 9/11, 2001. One of the characters, John Byers, finds out his father, who works for the federal government, has been killed in a car crash, but soon a friend of his father's tells John that his dad's death was not an accident. It's soon revealed his father is still alive, and his father's friend is the mastermind of the hijacking. John and his dad pull a Mark Wahlberg and board the actual plane to try and stop what they think is a bomb that will bring the plane down. The plan is actually to hijack into the plane's guidance system and crash it into the Twin Towers, much to their dismay, as they're on the plane with seemingly no way to stop the attack now. John is able to get a hold of his friends, Langley and Frohickey, and they're able to get a computer chip, the one that they're trying to steal in the opening scene, that's faster than pretty much any other chip at that time. It helps them hack into the plane and give the pilots back the controls. The plane just barely misses the World Trade Center, and the day is saved. 9/11 researchers cite the fact that the hijackers were inexperienced pilots, and that the maneuvers they had to undertake to get their aircraft to crash into their targets was near to impossible, even for experienced pilots. But a computer guidance system would have no trouble calculating and executing difficult flight maneuvers. This remote controlling of an airliner seems like future technology. But NASA was doing it in 1984 and Raytheon in 2001. Was this episode showing us something that could happen or would happen? Was it specifically designed to make us afraid and more susceptible to government overreach? If we're already scared planes are going to crash into the World Trade Center, then they actually do. Are we going to say, see, we knew this was going to happen. We need better security on airplanes, and NSA listening to our calls, and... The Lone Gunmen's parent show, The X-Files, had a main storyline that was about aliens taking over Earth through their use of a select group of elites. It touches on many aspects of real-life UFO lore, like the Greys, reverse-engineered technology, and government cover-ups. Seeing everything happening now in 2026 with hearings and committees and countless podcasts talking about UFOs, adding legitimacy to the phenomenon in the public's eye, it's interesting to see what was going on in the UFO space in the 1990s. The X-Files talks about alien-human hybrids and alien infiltration of the US government, as well as elites hoarding technology. Considering these have been talked about today by government officials, I do wonder if Chris Carter, the creator of the show, had some insider knowledge. I'm sure he was able to talk to some insiders that told him some things off the record that he incorporated into the show. It also goes into abductions, with a lot of them being perpetrated by a shadow government, which is one aspect of the UFO phenomenon people don't like to admit to or talk about. The MyLab's abductions, a series of abductions where victims described being abducted by humans or humans trying to make themselves look like aliens, was happening around the same time the X-Files was airing on TV. The X-Files is so entangled with UFO mythology that it's sometimes hard to tell which came first when talking about certain aspects of the phenomenon. Steven Spielberg's new film, Disclosure Day, is set to hit theaters this summer, and like the X-Files, it's apparently going to be using a lot of topics discussed in modern-day ufology as the backbone of its story. Steven Spielberg is rumored to have had insider knowledge early on in the game, as he put J. Allen Hynek in Close Encounters of the Third Kind as a cameo. Did he ask Hynek about certain things just between the two of them? I would have. This relationship, whether professional or friendly, could indicate that this is somehow a preview of what's to come, all approved by your friends at the top of the pyramid. You could say, well, it's just capitalizing on the UFO and alien fervor that currently has a grip on the public, which is definitely partly the case. But maybe there's more. Are they getting us ready for something? Is this part of their Project Bluebeam style fake alien invasion? So there's some pieces of media that I thought had some interesting ties to the theory of predictive programming. I do believe predictive programming is used in media, but it's hard to discern which pieces of media are the ones precipitating the programming. And sometimes the programming is rad. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, subscribe, comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.